Unfortunately, this is an extremely challenging time for cities across the country as they deal with response to the virus. But at the same time, there are lessons to be learned from climate policy as cities respond to COVID, and from COVID as cities think about climate policy going forward.
We have been in one of the worst disasters I guess our world has ever seen. We are New York City. We are the epicenter of the COVID-19 crisis.
It feels kind of apocalypse-like, and it's just like really eerily quiet, like it was a national holiday at like 6 a.m. or something.
With the virus, you have a very fast-moving, devastating impact, and the mortality from it is quite clear, and people are almost overnight changing their behavior to try to cope with it. Climate change has the potential eventually to be an even greater threat to humanity than the coronavirus. But of course, it's much slower acting, and its impacts are much more diverse, and they vary much more around the world. One important similarity between climate change and the virus is that your vulnerability to it is directly affected by your income level and your education level.
You know, when you think about our historically marginalized, disenfranchised communities, I think that you will see how those inequities has really been brought to light during COVID-19 and during this pandemic.
We're really adjusting to a new reality in terms of Americans' work habits and leisure habits, and where people are really able to move around the city, in addition, of course, to all of the continuing growth in people getting sick from the virus. We really have the opportunity to think about what our recovery looks like on all levels. As people are commuting less to work, more people are doing their jobs from home. So we might think about, do we want to disincentivize driving in cars going forward?
For those who don't have cars and they're very, very reliant on public transit, I think that's a way that we can look towards greener infrastructure, is prioritizing our bus systems so that they can run faster. And how do we do that? We have to close the streets to cars.
Another thing that we're seeing is a lot of activism around cycling and cycling infrastructure, and acknowledging how critical cycling is to our transportation system. So that's something that could also be used as a pilot going forward, showing that we really could have a more robust bicycling infrastructure here in New York City. There's a real opportunity to reset and consider how we will move forward once things go back to more or less normal.
When it comes to climate change and to how things are changing and affecting us, we know as a coastline community that we're going to continue to be affected. But I really want to see investment in some of these communities to change things once and for all.
I hope that more people will understand that when scientists give warnings, they should be heeded, and the hazards that they talk about should be reduced, and the impacts that will happen are prepared for. Those are clear lessons that we see from the virus that should be directly applicable to climate change.
I think really big crises like this can either crush people or they can make people really resilient after the waves of the crisis have passed.
Both climate and COVID-19 are existential threats that require massive collective action, and massive collective action requires a clear government leadership. So we need our government leaders to show us that if we do our part, they will do their part. And that is really the case for both COVID and climate change.
We survived 9/11, we survived Hurricane Sandy. We sustained some incredible losses, but this is a lot different. I always am trying to look for a silver lining, and I feel like maybe this will allow us an opportunity to plan our city a little bit differently.